Welcome and karibuni to Aroma of Zanzibar. Today I'm going to share with you how I'm making these amazing English muffins. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of warm water. Into that, I'm just going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. And you just want to stir it until the sugar is completely dissolved. Now make sure that your water is not hot, but it's warm. But if it's hot, you can continue stirring it until it cools down and then add 1 teaspoon of yeast. Then you just want to stir that as well. And then cover it and let it set aside for about 5 to 10 minutes. In the meantime, I need about 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. That's about 312 grams. And then we're going to add about half a teaspoon of baking soda to that. That's optional if you want. If you don't want, it's fine. And then you just want to combine it well. Now my yeast is ready, as you can see. And I have got about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil here, and I'm just using 1 tablespoon to it. And then just stir it well. And then we're going to add the flour. Now for the flour, we're just going to add it little at a time. You can do 3 or 4 intervals, however you prefer. We just want to make sure that the dough is not dense. It's not very heavy or thick. We want the dough to be very light and very airy. That's the reason why I added the baking soda. And also, you may need more, maybe a tablespoon or so, or you may need less. This is the reason why we weigh and scale the flour, because the flour has different density. But the reason why I use cups is because there are a lot of people who don't have scales, all right? And at this point, please go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of salt, which I forgot, and just mix it. Keep on mixing, and if you're comfortable, you can move to a flat surface, but at this point, I'm just going to continue. You can use your hands if you want. You can use a stand mixer if you want. It's optional, whatever you have and whatever you prefer. Okay, so we're just going to move this here. And I'm just going to continue to add my dough. And I'm using the stretch and fold technique, okay, because I'm not trying to develop any gluten here. I want my air bubbles and my bread to stay, my muffins rather, to stay very light, okay. So this is a sticky dough. So if you find it difficult to keep kneading like this, you can just rub some oil in your palm and keep continuing, but do not add any flour if it's not necessary. All right, so just like that, and then we are just going to put it in the bowl, and I've got the rest of my oil there. Just rub it nicely on the bowl because we want the dough to rise very well. Give it room without sticking in the bowl. All right, so that's it, and just cover it and let it sit for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. You want this to rise very well. Don't rush it. So now I'm almost ready. I've got my tray there, and I'm using yellow cornmeal. You can use white or you can use semolina. This is to just give that signature look of the English muffins. Now the English muffins have got a long story behind it on how the crumpets came to the US and became English muffins. I'll share that in my blog if you're interested. So my dough is ready, and there goes the salt that I forgot, but I'm not going to add it at this point. So on my surface, I'm using the oil. As I mentioned, I want the dough to be very light and airy. So the more flour you add, the more dense it becomes. All right. And so I'm just going to cut this in portions. And for this recipe, you can get maybe 10, 8. It depends on how large you want them, but they're usually very small. And so I did mine 10. Now I have done this recipe. I've been experimenting on this recipe. This is my 6th time. I was trying to get that particular texture. That's why I added the baking soda. And they all tasted the same, but I hope I have got it right. Okay, so I just do like that, whatever that is called. And you want to do that. And just flatten them because we don't want them to rise looking like a burger bun, okay? And yep, another one. And so I'm going to do the rest. And then we're just going to sprinkle the cornmeal on the top. And I also like to press them a little bit to make them a little bit flatter because they are going to rise up. And then you're just going to cover them and keep them for about 45 minutes to an hour. Mine took about 50 minutes to be precise. And now I'm ready. Now the English muffins, different people cook them different ways, but we don't use the oven. So one way is with the butter, and I'm going to do the other one without the butter. Okay, so that way you can choose whichever you prefer. I like the one without the butter. Okay, so make sure that your heat is very low. You can, if you have a skillet, please use a skillet. That's much better because it's heavy. But if you don't have, you can just use a frying pan. That's fine. And these ones are going to go in the butter. And make sure that the butter is hot. So you get little bubbles at the bottom like that because you don't want the butter to soak into the bread. It will make it heavy. And now the ones that I'm cooking with butter, I cook them for about 4.5 minutes on each side. And then you're going to flip them on the other side for the same amount of time. And then the ones that I cooked without the butter, I cook them about 8 minutes. You can do 6 to 8 minutes, and then you flip them on the other side. Now, if you want to finish them in the oven, then you cook them for about 4 to 5 minutes. Now, the ones that I'm cooking with the butter, they're going to go on the tray, and I've got my oven at 350 degrees, and then I cooked them bake them for about 10 minutes. Now, these ones, they were just cooked for about 8 minutes just on the stove. I think those who don't have ovens would love this recipe. I like the ones without the butter because then I can add the butter again. All right. So as you can see, they're nice and golden and they look pretty. And these ones here, they are the ones that I cooked them with the butter. And in the oven, they've got a little bit darker shade, but they look pretty too. So as I'm told, the English muffins, you do not use a knife. You just use your fork to split them open so you can see the nooks and crannies. So this is what I've been trying so badly to get them. And I got them actually. And you want to make sure that they are cool, okay, before you do this. And they're so good. You can have them with little sandwiches, eggs Benedict, and if you've seen my recipe on eggs Florentine, and see how beautiful they look. But for me today, I'm going to stick to the English style with toasted them with butter and my marmalade, orange marmalade. That's my favorite. Thank you so much. For more recipes, please visit me at Aroma of Zanzibar, and you'll find all the ingredients in the description box below.